Class, welcome again to everybody. We're going to review the basic parts of the tripods that we use for our class. Okay? Very, very simple. One of the first things that we're going to look at is how to support the tripod. And we're going to support it with these long straight things, right? And those things are called the telescoping legs, or the legs of the tripod. The reason why they're called telescoping is because they're able to extend. The way we extend them is through the leg lock lever. Okay, it's called the leg lock lever because the leg can be locked into place, right? If I were to try to pull the leg, it doesn't go anywhere. I have to release the lock. The leg release is this little clip right here, where what we do is we lift it, and then we are able to extend it to whatever size that we want. And then the important thing is to always lock it when you do that. All right, super simple, super basic, but this way, now the leg won't move. Obviously, if you push it with a lot of strength, it may move, but for the most part, it will be able to hold the weight of the camera without the leg moving. So the leg lock lever controls the telescoping leg, the length of the leg, and the angle that you're going to film at. Now, we don't always use it at a level state. Okay, sometimes yes, it makes sense, or it's logical that we just use it all the way down and it's good. But the fact is that sometimes we may come across an obstacle that, what do I mean? It works just fine if you're using a flat surface. But let's say that we're out recording somewhere and there's no good space, and all that we have, or what we come across, is like an obstacle on the floor, right? So we're trying to put the tripod there, and that's the only way it'll fit. Clearly, when we record, it might be an issue. So because we have a telescoping leg, we're able to make an adjustment, right? We're able to loosen this leg lock lever and then bring it down to so that the tripod could be level. Okay? So that's how that would work. So on the surface, it does not look like it'll work level, but when you're in your environment, it'll work level. Now, most of the tripods, not all of them, most tripods have a level indicator. I know that's not on your chart or diagram, but a level indicator is something that tells you when it is level. Now, I'm going to put it close to the camera, and I'll try to come around and show you guys in a moment. It's green, so it may not come out too well because of my green screen. But this little green thing right here that I'm pointing out at the camera is a little level that has a bubble, that when the bubble is right in the middle of the circle, that's when this is level. So if I turn it this way, the air bubble is over here, and then I'm turning it this way, the air bubble goes like to the middle, and then I turn this way, the air bubble goes that way, right?
So do they use that in like construction?
Exactly. They use that in construction on what's called a leveler, which looks like a giant ruler, right? That has these little circles, these holes. So that's what that is. That's what that's for, to make sure that your shot is level. All right, so those are the legs. And again, very, very important that we do function the leg lock lever, because if I'm about to record and I have what I think is a good setup, and I put my tripod on first, and then I say, oh, let me introduce the camera. Let me bring the camera now to my tripod, right? And I sit my tripod on, I say, okay, let's record, let's go. And I don't have my leg lock lever on, then that could happen. And depending on the situation, environment you're in, the camera can even fall as well, right? Because the cameras we use in this class, at least, are not too heavy, but some of them are heavier, that if that happens and this goes down quick, you know, it can knock it down. Always, always important to whoever is setting up and the production manager to check the equipment to make sure, oh, you know what, I see this thing open, so why don't you go ahead and triple check the lock, all right? So yes, I know that at least in our class, our camera equipment that you guys go out with to the field is not super expensive, $1,000 equipment, but it's still equipment that needs to be taken care of. All right, let me go through this a little bit quickly. All right, so after the leg lock lever, and then the same way to put things away. All right, we just unlock it right there, the tab, bring the leg up, and you're good. The way I like to do it is just put the leg lock like this and like let it come. Don't slam it, right? We want to take care of our equipment because we're poor and we don't want to buy more. all right? Okay, so the next piece that we're going to look at is the something called the elevator lock nut. The elevator lock nut, could you turn this on for me, please? The elevator lock nut looks like this. It's just basically a little locking piece, and it locks just what it says, an elevator, right? We think of an elevator, we think of something that goes up and down. So in this case, what does go up and down on the tripod is the actual top part of the tripod. So for example, sorry, let me put this here. This locking nut here is what controls the crank, right? You guys see the crank handle right there? So if you have your tripod at a certain height, but then somebody comes that's a little bit taller that you want to record, you activate it with this lock nut, all right? Now, I don't know, this may sound silly or what, but to loosen something, which way do you normally turn?
Left.
Left, right? And to tighten it, you go to right. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, perfect. So in this case, we unlock the nut by turning to the left. We turn to the, and we don't have to do it all the way so that the nut comes off. We just loosen it a little bit, all right? Don't take it off. And now the crank is able to crank and move your tripod to where it needs to go. Okay, so turning it to the right brings it up. And again, very important that you remember to lock your stuff. Okay?
That doesn't look weird when you're recording.
Well, you're not going to do it when you're recording. You do it to set up.
Oh.
Yeah, you set up first, and then you can record afterward. Okay? Very, very important that you lock this into place before putting the camera, before getting ready to record, because again, if I just have it there and maybe I didn't loosen it all the way, maybe it's kind of softly on there. If I add more weight on here of the camera, it might bring it down, okay? And obviously that's going to give us a bad shot, and it could probably damage the camera because it was slammed. Okay, so when you bring it up, you crank it up. Okay, you have it where you want it. You have it where you want it. You may have to use two hands. You have the crank there. And then what you do is you lock the nut, the elevator lock nut. You turn it to the right. This does not have to be super strength tightened, because a reality is these are, pretty low-end tripods. And if you do something too hard with these plastic parts, it might break, right? Exactly. Okay, so there you are. Okay, now we're up where we wanted to be, and we are good. Now this part right here is called the center column elevator. Okay, as you can see on the picture that I gave you, it's called the center column elevator. And then you can refer to that when you say, oh yeah, lift the center column elevator, and so on. And again, this is used mostly for when you have a shot of somebody who's taller, or when you want to record something that's higher. All right, that's what this is for. So let me bring this back down. And then when you bring it back down, don't just like loosen it and let it slam, because if you have the camera here and you loosen it, let it slam, the little shock might damage the camera. So you could loosen it and then uncrank it slowly, like that. That was honestly the best way. Or another way too is once it's tightened, you can hold the camera, then loosen it, and then walk it down. Like this, walk it down, and then just bring it down, okay? So then we put that on. Now, the next thing that we're gonna look at very quickly is the panhandle. Now, panhandle has a different meaning. I'll let you guys look that up as well. But panhandling means something else. But in the case of a tripod, the panhandle is this. Now, I mentioned that if you want to pan, when you talk about video, which directions are you turning? Which ways are you turning if I tell you to pan? Or what are the two options to turn? When you pan, correct. When you pan, you go left or right. Okay? Now, this handle right here also locks into place. And again, remember, locking is which way?
Right.
Righty. And loosening is to the left. Okay? This handle is able to turn left and turn right. You get it from here, and then you turn it to the left to loosen, and to the right to tighten. Now, again, it's not necessary to super tighten it with two hands or with two of you guys tightening it. Just softly tighten it. Okay, just get some tension and you're good. When it's tight, this panhandle will not turn anywhere. Okay, well, this panhandle allows you to turn left and right. And my mistake, there's also, excuse me, there's also a pan locking nut. Pan locking nut. This pan locking nut, for at least on this tripod, looks like a circle, like a little wheel. Turning it to the right locks it. Okay? So that means that now I cannot pan left or right. If you want a steady shot, you don't want to have any issues of turning or following, put the lock there, and now it's locked. It's not going to turn left or right. Okay, maybe you want a fixed shot because you don't want it to move for whatever reason. There you go. If you do want to pan left and right, then you loosen this pan locking nut. I'm turning it to the left, lefty-loosey, and now I am able to easily turn left and right. All right? Pan locking nut, pan handle. Now what I meant to go to was the pan handle allows you to tilt. It allows you to tilt up and down. Not only does it control left and right, but it allows you to tilt. And that is when I loosen this. When I loosen it, now I am able to tilt down and up. All right? So if you have the camera, say, here, and this is loose, and if you have a heavy camera, as we've noticed, right, with the bigger cameras, the camera tends to go like this because it's so heavy. So it's important that you say, okay, this is the angle I want. Let's say I'm recording people down there. So I now put it at the angle that I want, and my camera goes on here, but again, don't leave this loose. I have to tighten it softly because now this won't let the camera fall forward. Or I can't lift it either. Because maybe you're recording a game, you're at a, on top of the bleachers, and you just want a perfect shot. Don't bump into it so it won't move. That's how you do it. Okay? If I loosen the pan handle to the left, then I can do it. Maybe I'm recording something from somewhere up high. I do that. Okay? Now it won't move left and right because the panning lock nut is activated, and also the pan handle lock is activated. So now it's not going to move. Okay, so now that we've gone over the pan handle and the pan handle lock, I'm going to go over with you guys the top part of the camera. This part is known as a side tilt locking nut. Okay, side tilt locking nut. Now, why do we need a side tilt locking nut? This tripod obviously is not only used for filming, but it's also used for photo. You can put your camera on here to take pictures. Sometimes when you have usually a lens camera, well, because they're all digital these days, it's called a digital SLR camera. All right? So when you put your digital SLR camera, sometimes you want to take a vertical shot, not just a horizontal shot. This tripod will only let you hold it like this to have a horizontal shot.
Okay.
But you're asking, how can I get a vertical shot from this?
No.
Well, that is where the side tilt locking nut comes into play. This side tilt locking nut does just that. How do we loosen it? By turning which way?
Left.
Left, thank you. We turn it to the left because it's lefty-loosey. But what does it tilt? It actually tilts the entire platform here. Okay, the top platform where the quick release is. So if I have it, I'm going to tilt it up this way.
Oh, done.
So now that I have it like this, now if I'm into taking pictures, maybe like I said, I want to take pictures of people, of animals, whatever. Now my camera won't be like this, it'll be like this. And I can have it locked like that into place. Okay?
And it won't fall.
And it should not fall, no. I mean, unless your camera is like 15 pounds or really heavy, then possibly. But it should not fall. All right? So that is called the side tilt locking nut. Simple, simple, simple. Okay? Lefty-loosey, bring it down, and then righty-tighty. Now the last thing on the image that I showed you for identifying the tripod parts that I have is the actual quick release platform. The quick release platform is at the very, very top. And why do you think it's called a quick release platform? Genius, because it could be released quickly. Okay? It can be released quickly with this, I guess you can call it like a locking lever or security lever, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it a locking lever for our class. I know it's not on your picture, but it's called a locking lever. All right? Always, always make sure that that thing is activated. How do I check? Well, I'll show the tripod around a little bit later, but for the sake of the camera, I'll show you here. It's in the back of this, right, kind of by the panhandle, where what you do is you turn the locking lever out to the left, and once the locking lever is out to the left, you're able to lift up the quick release from the back and then slide it back. Oh wait, my hands are kind of funky right there in that shot. Okay, from the back like this, and then you slide it out. So the way it goes is kind of like as if you're diving in like head first. That's how it goes back in. You slide the top part in first, like that, and then you can open our locking lever, and then it sits down, and then you have to reactivate the locking lever. Okay, so very, very simple. Okay, super, super important also that this is always on lock because of obvious reasons. If you just put it in and it doesn't lock, and you just like maybe one day you just close it like, oh, this locking lever is down, I'm good. But if you don't check your equipment, you won't see that this thing is not sitting flat. The quick release platform is not sitting flat. So sometimes we carry the camera on the tripod, right? And if we're carrying it like this, and the camera, you know, we turn and it's a little heavy, then the locking lever it might very well tip out and the camera goes down. Okay, quick release goes in like nose first. You open the locking lever, then it sits down, and then you lock the locking lever. Now these quick release platforms can go in two ways. First of all, when you put the camera on, you always put the lens of the camera forward away from the panhandle. Because if I have the camera facing forward that way, then my panhandle works so that I can turn left, right, and tilt and look this way. Okay? Now sometimes some people put the quick release facing a different way. I can show you. Okay, sometimes they put it so they can face this way. And the thing about the quick release is that it could fit facing forward, and it also could fit facing sideways or even facing back. Okay, so people can put it sideways and it will still work, right? And sometimes you might need that. Maybe sometimes you want to record something that way and you could only sit here, but you want to record that way. So you could put the tilt here like this, but now the tilting is different, right? Because now my camera's facing that way now, and if I tilt this way, which way am I tilting on the camera?
Down.
I'm tilting to the left. I'm no longer tilting up and down, I'm tilting left, right? So you have to be careful which direction you put it in. Very few times do people put it facing forward. Well, now that I said that, it probably might make sense for some circumstances, because now my camera's facing forward and the panhandle is forward. When would this be useful if I have the camera facing forward and my panhandle facing forward? In broadcasting, or like when you're doing vlogging, when you're filming yourself. Because if I'm filming myself now and I don't want to go around to move the handle, my handle's now in the front and I can just adjust it because I'm looking this way. All right, simple. All right, boys and girls, very good. Now, on the quick release platform itself, there are two elements to it. And let me show you the quick reason why we have two elements, now that I have you here. Okay, so the quick release platform has two parts to it. It has one little prong. Sometimes it looks like metal like this. Sometimes it's plastic. And it has what looks like a bolt, a screw. It has a little piece with thread on it. Okay, you can probably see it on the camera. Not in real person, guys, sorry, but you'll get access to this later. Most cameras, I say most because I can't speak for every camera out there, but most cameras, at least the ones that I've used all, have these two holes at the bottom. And so there's two holes at the bottom of the camera, and guess what? There's two things that are on the quick release platform. One of the holes has thread in it. It has the thread so that the screw can go into it. So there's only one way you should really put this on. You should not turn it this way because, don't turn it sideways, because there isn't a way for the second little hole to be filled, right? It has to align vertically this way, right? So the prong goes towards the top into the hole that does not have any thread in it, and you just kind of have to
figure out or find a space for it to land. Once you've managed to have it fall inside the camera, do not try to turn it with the actual camera. The base, the actual quick release, has some kind of little butterfly attachment to it, and you tighten it. You just turn it to the right, righty-tighty, so that it can fasten onto the bottom of the camera. Make sure also that the prong does not come out of the hole at the top. Once you've done that, lower the little clip so that it can slide in nicely onto the quick release section of the camera. So once you have this, as I mentioned before, it's sturdy, make sure it's on right. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put the camera in, as we mentioned previously. You're going to put it with the lens facing out away from the panhandle and tilted down a little bit, sliding down lens first in this case. You then move the locking lever back so the camera can sit just as you saw right there. And then you're going to push it forward. You guys notice that the camera tilted a little bit forward because the panhandle was loose, so that's where we have to tighten it like that so that won't happen. Okay, so just make sure that the camera is on securely and that it is well. So now you're ready to do your recording, and you're ready to move it away or take it out of the classroom or move it around wherever you are. You can carry it if you can fit your hand in there, great, but I recommend carrying it, of course, with two hands, one hand on the tripod and one hand on the camera. It is not all that difficult to carry, but I do insist on having two hands on it. Remember, tripod is not a toy like this. Don't be walking around campus moving the tripod like that. It is in no way to be played with. Another thing, when you're carrying the camera on the tripod, make sure that it is always safe. You don't bang into anything. Don't carry it over your shoulder because, of course, the camera might fall off of the tripod, and that's, of course, something that we do not want to have happen. So make sure that you are always holding it correctly in front of you, not just like that. Don't play with it. Don't swing it. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, this is not a toy. I know that our equipment is not very, very expensive, but it is still not easy to replace, a camera costing a couple $100. So make sure that we have it taken care of at all times. I mean, in worst case, if you feel you cannot carry it, take it off, give it to your partner, and have them carry the camera with two hands. And that doesn't mean you can play with the tripod either. You always have to have the tripod, hold it securely and responsibly. Also make sure that when you're carrying the tripod that the legs are in. Don't have the legs extended this way, because if you're walking around with the legs extended that way and you happen to turn, your probability of hitting something or someone are higher. So make sure that when you carry the tripod from place to place, the legs of the tripod are all in. So that is pretty much going to conclude our little presentation on a tripod. Yes, I know it's not fun or super exciting perhaps, but nevertheless it is important so that we know the basics of taking care of our equipment. Okay, so thank you guys very much. Make sure you study and you review these parts for your upcoming quiz. Thank you.